Bridging Gaps, the business podcast with Deborah Levitt, sharing the challenges and stories of fellow business owners. Hello and welcome. Today I have Mike Clark with me. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Deborah. How are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks. Very well. Looking forward to this.
I'm looking forward to it as well. And it's really exciting times for you at the moment. You're in the midst of a huge transition to go back to Australia. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, I've been here 12 years this time, and with my little ones underway and the great opportunity I've got to head back to Australia, it's time to take the family home and get some quality weather.
So you're saying you didn't like the snow that we've had and the snow that's forecast for Easter?
I've always loved it, but when you end up having two little ones under the age of 2 and a dog that needs to go out twice a day, it becomes a bit uncomfortable at times.
It does. So you're heading back for some sunshine to Brisbane, is that right?
Yeah, well, actually, Gold Coast, so the southeast Queensland region of Queensland and Australia. Yeah.
So do you want to tell me a little bit about, what it is that you're going to be doing over there?
Yeah, well, the sort of quick and dirty version is that the organisation I brought over to the UK in the first place was called Triumphant Events back in the day, and we used to run a lot of events and speaking, large scale speaking events for motivational speakers and business leaders. Anywhere from 20 to 2,000 people would have at our events, and that's what brought me to the country 12 years ago. And then that business has then gone on to mature and has now created what is now known as one of the world's leading business growth accelerators for entrepreneurs, called Key Person of Influence, and the organization is called Dent Global. And so I after a successful exit from my business recently, I've been getting back involved in that environment, and then I'm having the opportunity to take it back to Australia and set up to be on the leadership team down there and the Queensland state leader for Dent. So yeah, that's part of the reason, or big reason why we're going home, aside from the weather.
So it's not just the weather that's made this decision for you.
No, there's a few, like everything in life, when you make a big decision like this, there's a few factors involved.
And when you go back over there and you start to take up this role with Dent, I know that that Dent have the Key Person of Influence. What type of people do you tend to work with, and what type of I guess, what are you bringing to the table? What is it that you're going to be able to give people to help them to become a person of influence?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, the long and short of it is it's over my business career of which has spanned about 15 years as being in the entrepreneurial game. Seen a lot of scenarios from real startup and being in startup situations myself numerous times, through to getting to the stage where having successful startups reaching 7 and even 8-figure revenues within the first 12 months, and then being in an environment where we've seen lots of other business owners really sort of struggle to get off the ground, and through to businesses that are quite established and have been doing what they're doing sometimes for 5, 10, 15 years, but they're sort of plateaued, or they're really finding it difficult to stand out in what is now a noisy marketplace. We're in the midst of the entrepreneur's revolution. So many businesses are being created and started, and we've also got the tech revolution, which is coming into play and really just causing massive disruptions. It creates a lot of opportunities. At the same time, it also creates a lot of distraction for business owners. And so it's a great time to be in business, but it's also a confusing time to be in business too, because the journey for a lot of business owners is that they start off, get into business, and in order to pay the bills and keep the lights on, they can sometimes end up taking business from anywhere. And then if you keep doing that and attracting a wide range of clients without being really clear in terms of who your target audience is, how you best serve them, and what's your story for engaging with them, then if you fall into the trap of having lots of different clients, then it means that you end up in time being confused about your marketplace. Things become a disqualifier. So in one instance, when you say what's the problem of your ideal target audience, in one instance the problems are this, in another instance they're not. So it becomes confusing for business owners. So really, I think what I've learned through my career and experience of being in business is that when you really focus in on a micro niche and you really start to demonstrate clear value of targeting and working with a specific target audience, or what we'd call a micro niche, and then you wrap more influence around it, and influence in the shape of, really focusing on clarity of your pitch, refining your pitch so you stand out from the myriad of competitors, through to really establishing yourself as a credible authority in the marketplace with a range of content, through to having a well thought out ecosystem of how people engage with your business and products that really sort of shape their thinking and activate their call it dominant problems, and then through to having when people Google you, they're really impressed with what they see, and bring some formal formidable partnerships. And when you start to really create influence in those areas, you really can stand out from the business. And in the case of the business that I built, which was Europe's largest LinkedIn training business, because we had an exclusive 2-year agreement with LinkedIn, and we could say that we were, given the title as the world's first certified LinkedIn training company, it allowed us to charge premium prices and scale the business significantly compared to others and many in our marketplace who are one-man bands and really sort of competing on price, which is what a lot of companies do. So the long-winded answer to your question is that it's really just what I bring to the table is just this background of experience of being in highly concentrated entrepreneurial battlefields, if you will, for want of a better term, and just helping businesses to navigate more successfully and smoothly through that, because there's certain things you need to be focusing on at the right time, and times your winning strategies become a losing strategy. So it's really just knowing what to focus on and how to wrap greater influence around you and your business, so you can live have your business help you live the lifestyle you truly want.
And that's really interesting, because I know a lot of people that I've spoken to, and you hear this. Well, I hear it quite a lot about people go, well, you have to niche, as you've just spoken about, and you have to know who your ideal client is. And when you're starting, that's quite frightening, because you feel like you're excluding all of these possibilities, and you feel like, well, actually, no, I could help them, and I could help them, and I could help them. And it is quite hard to wrap your head around that. Actually, yeah, sure, you could, but you're going to do much better if you specialize and if you actually focus in and you get that business. And that might very well draw those other people to you as well, but it's still focused around that core.
Absolutely, it's a constant. It's really a case of less is more, and one of the early most critical factors that any business needs to get right is just being able to speak directly to an individual who represents the ideal type of group of individuals, or call it target market, that you want to be able to engage with. And if you come across as a generalist and you're trying to be something to everybody, you end up being nothing to nobody. And so it's just like, if you've got in my life, I've played a lot of football, and when I had a knee injury, you go to the GP initially for an initial consult, but the GP then recommends you to the specialist, and guess what? The specialist charges a lot more, and they deal with people who deal with football. The specialist I went to for my knee dealt exclusively with football-related knee injuries. So if you're trying to play at a professional level, which I was at the time, he's the best in the business. You don't go to anybody else, and guess what? He's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times more. But would he get business outside of that? I'm sure he did, and he definitely did, because I knew him. So that's why often your target isn't the market, is a phrase that we often use inside Dent.
Excellent. And you spoke there in the previous bit about LinkedIn and how you became the first trainers, the first certified trainers for LinkedIn. How did that come about? How did you manage to establish yourself in a way that caught LinkedIn's attention and had them going, yeah, we want you guys involved with us?
That's a good question. And at the time, I was instinctively following what I knew was to be the easy path of business. Now, looking back on it with the benefit of hindsight, I can look back and say with a different level of clarity that really what I was gravitated to was somebody who was a key person of influence inside the LinkedIn training world. And I instinctively knew that when he said that his business had just been given the title of the world's first certified LinkedIn training business, I was like, I know I can sell that. That is a market differentiator. And the background to that is that my first years in business at that point was probably 7 years beforehand, when I was in business with Daniel Priestley and Glenn Carlson back in Australia in about 2004, 5. Our first year of business, we took an organization that was doing about $1 million in turnover to just shy of 11 million in the next 12 months. And the reason why we knew we could do that is because we were able to sell one-to-many through running events. And secondly, whereas they were selling one-to-one. And secondly, is that they had a really charismatic person who was at the helm of the business and was very engaging. And so we knew that we could promote and sell him. And then after that, we had to stop that contract because they couldn't sustain the growth we gave them. We ended up coming to the UK, and at the time we were following a number of business speakers, and we, were really eager to share their message, and they caught wind of that, and they offered the opportunity for us to be able to launch them into the UK. So we took that and took the opportunity and ran with it. And what that, again, we didn't know that at the time, but instinctively, upon looking back on it, is that we knew we could promote them because they were what we now would call them a key person of influence in their industry. These were people that could get up and present and deliver a presentation to hundreds or thousands of people and different settings, small group, large group. They had books on topics. They were deemed and seen as credible authorities in the marketplace. They had a range of things that we could promote and sell, so packages and services. Their online profile was through the roof, off the charts. So many great people saying great things about them. And then on top of that, they brought some connections and partnerships for us. And when we looked at that, we just knew that was the right ingredients for us to be able to make them successful. And so it allowed us to launch into the marketplace in the UK. And our first quarter of being here, we did over $250,000 pounds, I should say, in business. First year, we're doing 7 figures, and then by the end of a few years, we're up to about £3 or £4 million in revenue. And then the financial crisis hit. And pretty much take a zero off that, and that's sort of what happened. Those figures. So everything sort of went to hell in a handbag, and then I think not just us, but the whole marketplace is trying to figure out what to do next. And so then, as a result of that, without those speakers going back to their home markets and concentrating on that, it meant that I had the opportunity to either sort of stick around and figure out how to work through that, and or to go out and put everything that I'd all that experience into practice, and essentially I then went off and did that, and that's when I came across the world's somebody who had the title. It just won the title, the world's first certified LinkedIn training business, and I just instinctively knew that I could, there was really good opportunity in that. And so then how we established a relationship with LinkedIn is that we then went on to essentially, they'd written a book which was called How to Really Use LinkedIn. So then I basically knew that there was a really good opportunity to collaborate with LinkedIn. LinkedIn started buying our book and giving it to their new members of staff at their European headquarters in Dublin. So then we went through a 12-month tendering process where we got an exclusive 2-year agreement with them, whereby LinkedIn and all their thousands of sales reps across Europe would then introduce us to their clients. That allowed us to scale our trainer base and have 25 different trainers and consultants that could deliver training in about 12 different languages. And so the foundation marks is that the people that I got into business with were established authorities in that industry, and as such, LinkedIn saw them as being someone that they could collaborate with because they added value to their ecosystem. So that's sort of how it all came together.
So when you, so when you're just starting out, if you're, a small business who, as you said, has either, well, actually, let's just focus on the one who is just starting up, who's quite small, has got, facing some challenges now. Hearing all of that about, establishing your credibility and becoming that very well established, key person of influence.
Yep.
can sound quite daunting, especially when they're experiencing all of these other things that they may not have realized that they had to do, that actually they do have to be a salesperson, and now they've suddenly got to be an accountant. And so their
Yep.
core skill is being saturated or diluted by all of the other tasks they have to do. So the thought of trying to take that step to say, oh, also I need to become this key person of influence could be very, very off-putting. What?
Good. Yeah, great question. And that's why I said at the beginning, it's really important to know what to focus on at the right time. Is the starting point. Okay, so business and entrepreneurship is quite predictable, despite people thinking that their business is unique and their circumstances is distinct from everything else. But the reality of it is, there's only one reason why people buy anything, and that's to solve a problem. People need team members. You need cash flow coming into the business. You need to manage your accounts. You need to, yada yada yada. There's a whole. So business is rather predictable, and so focusing with you, if you're just starting off in the marketplace and focusing as yourself as being the person of influence, may be difficult for many to prove. So in the instances that I shared with you earlier, like I found people who were that person of influence. Okay, so you have influence in a marketplace because you've got a long-standing history of demonstrating value to the market. Okay, so it's important that the starting point, the start-off phase of a business, if you're pre-revenue, is that you've really got to focus on proving the concept first and foremost. Prove the concept of that people and a marketplace wants what you have. Too many people at the startup phase of the business, they focus. Let's say if you were to focus on the influence side of things right now, it's not where you get the greatest value. Where you need to focus on is looking at, well, who is the marketplace that I would love to serve? What would I love to be doing? Start with some of those questions, and what's my background and experience? What's my story that could come across as being credible to that audience? Maybe not a massive influencer, but as being credible at least with your background and your story. It could be that you've worked in the industry for 10 years in the corporate world, and all of a sudden you're stepping out and you've had that experience. All of a sudden it's like, okay, great. Well, you've dealt with my market. You understand me. Okay. If you don't even have that, some other things you could be doing is you could create like a survey. One of the clients I'm consulting with at the moment is now, even though she's got a long history in the industry, she's now targeting a different market. And so we're going out and she's then interviewing, she's up to about 40 people that she's interviewed now. And so as a result of that, you can then use those insights to then, to be able to say, listen, I've interviewed and surveyed over 40 people or 50 people, and as a result, these are the top things that are standing out. And she's now running a workshop about that and engaging with that target audience. So you can build influence up over time. Is one approach, and the other approach is like what we did as well, is that we would if you're very good at being able to create campaigns and to promote people, then you can also find other people of influence. And that in turn, if you're standing on stage with someone very influential in your industry, you might have to do a deal, might have to pay for them to come on board and to get involved with one of your events, for example. But by you getting them on stage with you, then it builds your credibility, because people will often go, wow, geez, you're on stage with that person. Okay, well, geez, you're obviously at a high level as well. But on top of that, if they've got a strong brand in your region or your niche, then it'll be much easier to promote them. And it's easier to say, well, it's not just me, it's look at this person, this is look at their background and their history and their results that they do. And and that's what we did in the early stages. We were just really good at running campaigns, and we found other people of influence, and then through osmosis we were able to then have that transference of influence onto us, because we were behind the scenes with it all. So a couple of different ideas there for you to play with.
Yeah, no, which is really useful and really interesting. And I guess that last one you're talking about is really leveraging somebody else's knowledge and experience to, the fact that they're willing to be there with you is saying, well, actually, you've got credibility as well.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to go back to LinkedIn again, because I know that that's something that you've, obviously done a lot with. Do you think LinkedIn is a place to be doing social selling? Do you think it is the best location, or do you think it's just one piece of your toolbox?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think that The starting point of any good social, when I say social, meaning social media,
Mhm.
social strategy, is fundamentally starting with who's your target audience. Who are they? Okay. And, in most places when it's a B2C, so if you're going to end consumers, if you've got a product going to end consumers, then often LinkedIn isn't the best place for it. Okay. LinkedIn is much more of a business to business environment.
Mhm.
And so you've got to think about who is your target audience and where are they going to be most active and visible. Okay. So,
Okay.
so in the small business context, okay, if you're targeting SMEs and small business owners and so on, then you know what, they're going to be active on LinkedIn, but they're probably also going to be quite active on Facebook, as an example. So Facebook would be a great strategy to look into, and there's some phenomenal things that can be done with pixel strategies and video advertising on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, on Facebook. So you've got to be looking at first and foremost, where is your target audience? If they are corporate related, okay, so if you're going after your FTSE 100 or top 200 companies in your region or 500, then and their job titles of whether they're C-suite or whether they're directors or whether they're managers, mid-level, senior managers, and so on, good chance that they're going to be most active on LinkedIn. And approaching them through Facebook may not be the most suitable approach. So if you're assuming your target audience is active and present on LinkedIn, then yeah, it's a really good approach and strategy. And the things that work best, what we used to do in the LinkedIn world, is, or not, we still do, is really positioning people as thought leaders, and that's where we would encourage our clients to get to. Because when you start sharing content and information that's relevant to your audience, then you can actually leverage that information to start conversations. And so at the heart of a social selling strategy, what we'd call a LinkedIn social selling strategy, is making sure that the marketing departments would have content that the sales teams could leverage that was insightful to engage with their target audiences. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, but it really comes down to where is your target audience and where are they going to be most active.
Yeah, no, that definitely answers the question. Where do you think people get it wrong just with social sales? Well, actually with sales generally.
It depends which people. I got there's a number of responses I got, but so I can be most helpful. Is there a subset of individuals you're referring to?
Again, probably back to that small business startup, the people who are, it's new to them, that they're quite resistant to the idea of being seen as salesy.
Oh, God forbid. I have to promote myself. Yeah, well, I think that's where people will get it wrong. At the heart of it, it's avoidance and resistance to it. So, a book that I've just finished the first draft of, it'll be coming out soon, is called Sales Culture. And there's five ingredients of an organization that has strong sales culture. But any successful small business, or let me put it another way, most unsuccessful small businesses have a lack of sales culture, and that's what they avoid. So it's so easy this day and age, getting back to what we were saying earlier, that to start up in business, the barriers of entry are so low nowadays. You can set up a company for very little investments. You can, so many, get business cards, you can get a simple website, you can build it yourself. It's like all of a sudden inside a few days you're up and running with a business, right? But fundamentally, a lot of people get into business because they're passionate about it, or they've got a technical knowledge of brilliance in an area. And so they then get really complicated around things, or make it very complicated, and they try and get involved in a lot of things that are unrelated to actually driving revenue and speaking to prospects. And at the early stages of a business, that's the most important thing, because a lot of businesses spend too much time focusing on the wrong things, such as building a fancy website, spending thousands of dollars or pounds on a website, and I've got to create this workshop and this content. Let me spend a week creating the content for this program. It's like, okay, but then it's like, well, first, fundamentally, have you spoken to people to find out if that's the actual program that's going to be of interest for them? Oh, no, but I'm pretty sure I've got this idea of what this is going to be. And they spend days and weeks. And when you're in the early stages of business, the thing that you often have more of is time, and you have less of, which is money, which is why people, play that balance. So and that's where most businesses struggle, is because they spend too much time in the wrong areas of their business, as opposed to getting out there, speaking to prospects, speaking to people that could potentially engage, getting their feedback in terms of what problems they have and what would the ideal solution look like, and get your prospects to help you shape the solution. And by just having not even a sales conversation, just having a conversation where you're just engaging with them on a non-threatening, you're not going to ask them to buy anything. By doing that, what you're also doing is you're actually building a pipeline of future prospects of people who know about you. But many businesses struggle and avoid doing those sort of things because they get caught up in the, like you said, dilution of everything else. There's so many things to focus on. But in the early stages, just focus on demonstrating a concept, or proving a concept, and that people want to part money and pay for what you have to offer. And if you focus on those things first and then continue to focus on that as you grow, that's the quickest way to scale your business to get to 6 figures in revenue. But if you don't focus on and creating a strong sales culture from you, starting with you, okay, so anyone's going to join your business, even if you want someone else to sell your stuff on your behalf, they're going to be asking you straight away, how do you sell it?
And that's, really valuable. And I think it is that we focus on the things that we feel safe in. We focus on the things that we think, I can do this and I can do this well. And then somehow everything, will just flow to me. And we avoid that, putting ourselves out there. So it sounds to me as, what you're saying is part of that building my credibility. It is actually going to lead to some of the sales as well, because I'm now participating, I'm communicating to people, I'm talking to them. And that's going to then help me to be bringing in the customers. And I guess it is really interesting, actually, that we all have, I think, in our heads that view of the person who rings you, who says, oh, I just wanted to talk to you about this. No, I'm not selling you anything, and then proceed to try and sell you something. And that's what we all sort of picture, and we're all like, I don't want to be doing that. And it's changing your perspective to actually that isn't what you're going to be doing. You're going to be bringing value to somebody and helping them to achieve whatever it is that your service is.
Absolutely. And it's important to be aware of our preconceptions of salespeople. And you're right, there is nowadays it's the pesky, poorly trained. I wonder if some of them are even trained at all.
I'm pretty sure they're not.
Who interrupt you in the middle of your day and just sort of pesky. Or even now it's automated calls. It's like, so there's a whole, and we've got all those examples. And in the previous years gone by, it was the person who'd rock up to your front door, knock on your door, and throw a bunch of rubbish on your carpet and then clean it up, and there's very little focus. And for people who have hold-ups with sales, they've had experiences with people, as I said, who are poorly trained, or another way I put it is the intention of the salesperson has very little to do with them, and it's about the salesperson's objectives. And so when any salesperson is focused with their intentions on themselves and their outcome, they come across with this energetic vibe of like, I don't really care about you. This is about me. I'm trying to get through my pitch and presentation. But sales is all about being of service to others. And so if you do have, hang-ups with this, you've got to start asking yourself some questions like, okay, that's how one model of a salesperson operates, but is that how I would operate? And the answer most of the time is no. So how do you want to operate is that you want to be that consultative salesperson, that person who's there to really be of service to others, because sales is about being of service. And when you come from that space, you really start to understand, you want to understand more about the person you're dealing with. And when I run sales workshops, and I've run them over the years, I always encourage people to just get off their outcome, get onto the outcome of the prospect, the person you're dealing with, and come with a sense of curiosity, just to say, I don't know if I can help you. Like, I don't know. I suspect I probably can, but I'm still trying to explore and understand your model of the world and what's going on for you and what your problems are and what you're actually after. And once I know that, then I'm in a better position to say, yeah, I can help you, or I can't. And so when you get off your outcome and focus on them, it really allows you to shift the dynamic. But, it does take practice. and we have to overcome our own internal fears and objections, which is why, I started off my career by making over 100 to 150 calls a day, and I did that for 15 hours a day for about a year. So that gives you good training ground to overcome your internal bullshit.
And if you're looking, so you mentioned there about the book that is going to be coming out soon. Did you say when will that be coming out?
Well, it all depends once I can finish it all off, but it's the first draft is there, it's back and forth. But it's probably about, I would say sometime around July, I would imagine. Yeah.
So a lot of people, I think, have this feeling, that they do have things to share. They've got this knowledge and they'd like to be able to impart it. And they know all about, because we've got Google, being able to put a PDF up and call it an ebook and all of those sorts of things. But if you really want to actually put a book out there, is there anything that you can, advise or suggest on how you would approach that?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. And that's a really valuable question. And I think the answer to it involves, at the heart of it, you need to have something substantial to say with a book. And I think a book this day and age is something that's evolved over time. People used to create books to make money, whereas now I see from a business perspective that the value of a book is that it helps you to communicate the real value of what you or your business offers, and it helps to educate your prospects about the problems they have, and perhaps they didn't even know they had. A lot of businesses are in the education game, and where they waste a lot of time and energy and effort is they've got to actually educate a lot of people that hang on, geez, the business landscape has changed, and as a result of it, it's created these new problems, and a lot of prospects aren't aware of those problems. But as soon as you talk to them about it, they go, "Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, there is, right?" So if you have to do that in a one-to-one capacity, or just through you speaking and communicating, then what happens is you consume a lot of your time educating without actually monetizing that. So the real value of a book for me is that it does that 24/7 sales role for you, and it should be thought through in terms of really looking at the niche of the target audience you're going after. What are the problems that they have, the consequences of those problems, the implications, the mistakes people make through looking at what are the solutions and what do they actually really want, and then giving them some practical advice in terms of how they can get that. And when it's thought through on those levels, what you find is that it really serves your business, and it really helps you to add into what we'd call product for prospects, a valuable tool that can do that grunt work of education and engage with people. And the biggest mistake I see with a number of people is that they try and write a book too soon. If you're clear from the very beginning in terms of your audience and their target audience, and what they're after and so on, and how it fits into your wider ecosystem of solutions, then great. But a lot of businesses aren't clear on that, and so they write a book that ends up consuming them and distracting them from their business. And then as a result, they end up with a book, which is good to say they've got a book, but is it really going to serve your overall business model? And if it doesn't, then it's a nice to have, but it's better if you can then give your book out to target audiences, and they come back to you going, "Hey, tell me more."
So it's another, I guess, tool in that toolbox again, of being able to use it to get out. And do you find that it does lead to direct, sales and communications? Do people look at it and go, oh, okay, well, actually, that's great. He's told me enough. I'm going to go do it by myself. Or do you get that mixture of the person who is going to do it themselves or try to, and the person who's going, actually, I really want to speak to him because he sounds like he knows what he's doing and I need help?
Sure. Yeah, it's a concern some people have, of saying, well, geez, what if I give away some of my best ideas? What if people do go and do that? It's like, well, that could happen, but, the psychographic of the people you want to work with is going to be people who really, value working with an expert in that area. And so, there's so many online things you can get access to this day and age that ideas are becoming more and more useless. And we've got so many ideas. I just saw an infographic now about all the different social channels, how many hours people, and what happens inside 60 minutes. And there's like 3.3 million Facebook posts. There's 550 It's a million hours. It's a massive volume of how many hours are watched on YouTube, and there's 483,000 tweets that are going out. It's like a little tsunami of information, right? So so the real value is that a book will tap into reaching people that otherwise you never would have reached, or very rarely, or couldn't have reached anyway. So you're going to be tapping into a group of individuals who, had you not written the book, you never would have found them in the first place. This is the first point. So if some of those people go off and try and do it themselves, well, then great. Well, you've lost nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's going to be a bunch of those people who turn around and go, yeah, actually, I need your help. And so then if your business is built around giving insights that sort of stimulate ideas, and don't give them all the value inside the book, you give them a certain level. If you've got 100% of the value that you offer, you give them maybe 15-20% of the value in the book, and you need to shape the rest of the book around really talking to the pain points and solutions and so on of your target audience. But the real value is now made not in ideas but in implementation of those ideas. That's why, with all our accelerators that we run, we used to just do weekend workshops when I first started in this industry. They call it the training industry. And we used to run weekend workshops for 1 or 2 days. And we used to get frustrated because you see these people at the events, they're all pumped up. They're like, yeah, excited. They're getting these ideas. They're going to go away and work on them. And then, weeks later, a month or so later, we'd ask them how they're getting on. It's like, oh, yeah, back to what they were doing beforehand. And we realized that, you've got to create that environment for people to get, sustainable transformation. And business can be a lonely game at times. And so it's, you particularly need to be in an environment where you can get, be held accountable to your ideas and implementing them. And that's where the real magic happens in business.
And I think that's really true around we can take so much information on, and it's really easy. I see somebody who I'm doing some work with at the moment, and he's in this stage of kind of gathering mentors, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm mentoring him, and it's kind of like, okay, so now you've got how many people giving you advice, and and that's what are you doing with it? And and I actually said, if I'm not the right person, that's fine, but you need to focus on who is the right person, because all of this information coming in, it's so easy to then, I think when I started doing some work with Daniel and the Threshold Accelerator, I said, I actually believe that I know what to do. It's not a question of knowing, it's a question of doing, and having somebody to then tell you if you've done it in the way that's going to be effective. So as you say, taking away that I'm giving you information and moving it to the I'm helping you and supporting you in doing this, or possibly doing it for you, it is a huge benefit.
Absolutely. It really is the difference between rapid success and delayed success. And and that's why we call our programs our accelerators. They're designed to accelerate your results. I've always been a big proponent of self-development, of being around mentors and being in environments that can help me get better results quicker. It's, there's no point trying to create an original mistake. They've all been done in business before. So, if you can spend time with the right people who can help you shape your ideas and thinking, and in the early stages of business, that's so critical. And I mean, at every stage, it's important, but particularly in that early stage where, you can be sucked into doing a myriad of other things that end up costing time, wasting money and resources. So it's really about focus to the right things and knowing what to focus on again and what not to focus on.
And with all of the businesses that you've worked with since leaving university, if I'm not mistaken, they've all been actually fairly young businesses, startups. So you've always been in that environment where it's not an established, successful, you're just slotting in. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Yes.
So how did you find that from a working environment? Do you find that you're tending to, that there's pressure to just put in all of the hours, or do you find that...
Yeah. Sure. No, I laugh because I'm at this stage, I think, of my life and career where I've got 2 little girls now. They're both under 2 years old, and so things of that nature really help to give you a different perspective on life and so on. And so when I first started off in my career, in business, it was 24/7. It was pretty consuming, particularly when I packed up our bags and came to the UK. Like, at some points we were running 16 events a week. I would then follow up the 2 weeks afterwards. I'd onboard all our clients, and I was literally staying at my business club in central London, having 10 to 12 back-to-back 1-hour meetings. And then I'd finish the evenings. Back then, this was before I was too automated around things and the clever technologies we have now. So I'd have to end up emailing everyone separately after hours as well. And and then the weekends would be hanging out with people who were all our clients and stuff. So it was all immersive. It was just a really fun period, but also I'd end up some weekends just collapsing on a Saturday and sleeping for 16 hours straight, and then sort of do it all again the next week. So through the early stages of even beyond then, until just recently, I have to say, really, it's a more recent shift for me over the last 12 months or so has been where I have just sort of created more boundaries around things, and I've done my time. I've done my time. I've paid the crime, and now I can be much more controlled with my time and what I do and what I don't, what I say yes to and no to, and so you sort of get that balance of perspective, and I think now, looking back on it, a lot of the content we've ended up creating, particularly Dent Global with Dan Priestley, he's created some really valuable boundaries, if you will, and goalposts for businesses to work towards. For example, to be a lifestyle business or a performance-based business. And we didn't have a language like this when we first started. So it's just grow, go, nonstop, and just what's the end goal? Global domination. We'd say that jokingly, but also seriously. We're not going to stop until we're in 20 countries and client bases all over the world. And that was the sort of the vision that we're working towards, as opposed to now, had I gone back and done it successfully, I would have been sorry for anyone who doesn't know this language, but if we talk about the entrepreneurial journey, it's startup phase, and you go into wilderness, which is sort of one person in the business full time. Then you sort of get one or two others in the business as well, and that's where 80% of businesses struggle. And then they get out of that, they move into a lifestyle business, which is typically about 3 to 12 people. But most businesses don't have high enough revenue per head per person, so they end up struggling at that stage. They might do, for example, in pounds, 300,000 or say 500,000 in revenue, but they've got like 10 people in their business, so it's only 50,000 revenue per head, which is not high enough. You need it to be about 90 to 100,000 revenue per head to be quite profitable. So the goalposts we've got now are much clearer. And so, had I talked to myself, even just in my previous business, we were still sprinting. We had 25 consultants, an internal team of about 10. We were still sort of sprinting and just going, go. Whereas had I known what I know now, I would have gone back then and said, okay, great. So we've got 10 in our team. Let's just get the revenue right up per head. Let's really just focus in on bedding down our digital assets and making sure we're removing the manual aspects of the business, and just have a much clearer sense of focus. Which I now have through hindsight and perspective, and just being in the game for so long. So it didn't really, even though I was surrounded by mentors and so on, I think what I really like about what we do is we help businesses to create a really clear sense of what they're aiming for and what they're shooting for, and that's helped to sort of tame things, and also greater sense that I've been in the business environment for so long. You realize there's always problems, there's always issues. I think it's the fallacy of businesses like, oh, just going to get to this level and then everything will be fine and it'll all be perfect. It's like, no, there's always shit that's coming up.
And there's always stuff that, the world is changing so quickly around us.
Yeah.
That you just, like even things like, coming up, now, GDPR.
Yeah.
And, something that you actually can't just ignore, you have to think about. And so, as you say, there's always something.
Yeah.
But I agree as well in terms of knowing what you want to achieve, and recognizing, so one of the things that I guess wonder about is whether the only vision that people have, especially I guess younger people coming through, is that success means I've got to be up here, I've got to be famous, I've got to be on TV, I've got to be doing all of those things. And realizing that actually success is very personal, and whatever it means to you, it is right. And so, as you say, knowing what your success looks like and what your objective is can have a huge impact on what you're trying to do and what you're trying to attain.
That's a really valid point there, Deborah, and I completely agree with that. And I've recorded a video recently where talk about, the focusing on becoming a micro niche allows you to create micro monopoly. And one of the things I mentioned in there was about, you don't need to be famous to everyone. You need to be famous to the right people. And so knowing who that audience is, and knowing who people that you'd love to serve, that make you come alive, that make you have fun, or allow you to have more fun because you enjoy serving them. It's business is a game where if you know those things in advance, it allows you to set the rules of the game up, and then when you're breaking the rules or when you're playing by the rules and winning. So
yes.
So definitely.
So in terms of just going back to the well-being side of it, so in the last 12 months, what is it that you do now to, apart from moving to where there's better weather, that you do to help maintain that balance? There's such a lot of talk and discussion about mental health as much as anything now.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I look to do as much as possible is I look to there's a number of things, but from a daily basis, I always take time to just appreciate and have moments of gratitude. I'm not sure if it's technically a meditation. I call it meditating. To me, it's meditating. I think there's so many different forms of meditation, but for me, I spend time as early as I can in the days, depending on how I've had what sort of night I've had with the girls. But for example, today I sort of did a bike ride first thing, and I was just for 20 minutes there, and I just played some nice soft music and some relaxation music, and just was thinking about all the things I'm grateful for. And I always start off with my girls and my family, and just and I think about other people around the world that just aren't as fortunate as us, and just simple things. Sometimes it's just like saying eyesight. Geez, I'm just grateful I can see, and I think there's so many things that we have that if they were taken away from us, even if for a day, we would really be in a world of hurt. Yet people live their whole lives like that. So I think there's a sense of gratitude I've learned, I've applied over many years now from the early personal development work that I did. And that helps me to just appreciate things and put things into context. Like last year I had over 100 trips to the hospital and 3 ambulance rides for the birth of my second daughter. And, there's very touch and go moments, and where things in my life could have turned out horribly different. And so thankfully that didn't happen. So, just that pure thought, whenever I think I've got issues, and I think that sense of perspective is important because, as I said, there's always problems in our lives, and it's what we choose to focus on. And so your focus creates your reality. And so that's one thing. But definitely I enjoy working out. I always have. I prioritize that. It gives me a sense of when I'm feeling better about myself physically, I find that I mentally operate better and sharper. I've just come off the back of a 10-day detox. I do that 3 times a year. So I do at least 30 to 40 days where I just live off smoothies, green smoothies and wheatgrass, and just pump my body full of nutrients and vitamins and so on. So that's another thing. And just being around people that inspire me, and being connected to people that inspire me, and developing myself is important as well. So there's just a few things that I do.
Oh, that's really wonderful, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just before we wrap up, is there anything that you'd like to say, or that you'd like to tell other business owners about, or just to wrap up yourself?
Yeah, I think stay the course is what I'd pass on. I think the more that you can just be clear in terms of the rules of your game, as we've been speaking about, and and just really get clear on some of the things that are going to drive you towards success and save you time. Just know what they are. Invest in knowing what they are. That's why the accelerators that we've put together, like, they are geared around our best thinking and knowledge and experience of just running lots of campaigns, and being involved in successful startups, and startups that have struggled as well. I've given away 49% of my company and had to close it down 6 months later. So it's not all success stories. There's tribulations, and we all have them. So, but the clearer you are in terms of what success looks like for you, and just being prepared to focus on the right things that are going to move you closer to your goal in the quickest time possible, become a master in those things. And by becoming a master in those things, you'll really start to enjoy the game more, and you'll see greater success along the journey. And don't get caught up in the minutiae of the problems. They're always there. You think you've got problems hiring people, your first staff member, guess what? You've got 50 staff members, you're still going to be having problems hiring talent. It's just the same problem on a different scale. So every problem in business is just, it's related to scale. It's the same issues, just on a bigger level. So, yeah. I hope that helps.
No, that's really valuable. Thank you, Mike. And thank you very much for taking the time to be here today. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you, Deborah, and well done with what you're doing. And I hope it's been helpful to anyone listening. And if you want to get in touch, I think there'll be some of the details you'll include there. I have a Facebook page where I sort of just drop regular updates and videos and interviews and tips and insights and podcasts and a whole range of stuff. And there's some various tools that we have to help people to understand where they are in their entrepreneurial journey. One of them is like an influence scorecard. We might be able to include that perhaps in the podcast details. So that assesses how well you are doing essentially in the 5 areas, the 5 Ps, which is pitching, creating products, publishing content, creating products, your online profile, and partnerships. You get a score out of 100 for that, and it'll sort of share with you where you're on track and off track. So that's something I'd recommend. And if I can help in any way, feel free to get in touch in any of the social links that we'll include. It's usually Michael Clark 03 for Facebook I am, or Mike Clark 03, Clark without an E. Mike Clark 03 at Twitter and so on. So if I can help in any way, would love to. And I'd love to hear any comments of any feedback you got on that. But thanks for your time, Deborah, and well done, and for bringing this together. And it's been great getting to spend some time with you.
Yeah, it's been really great getting to spend time with you as well, Mike. And all the very best in Australia, and back to that sunshine again.
Oh, tell you what, I'll send you a photo of my, I've gone from albino skin to tan.
I was going to say that I expect to see a slightly different looking Mike.
Yeah. My hair probably a bit lighter, my skin a bit browner. Well, thanks for this, Deborah. It's been great. Thank you for the opportunity. And hey, and the final thing I would say is just, well done for being in business. Whoever, if you're listening into this, it can be tough at times, but congratulations for getting to where you are. And just stay the course, because you're here, and your business is here to serve a purpose, not just to help you, but others as well. So I hope these thoughts and ideas have helped you to just gain a bit more clarity.
You've been listening to Deborah Levitt on Bridging Gaps, the Business Podcast.